Someone may realize that a coworker has crossed the line and what they're saying may be an actual threat when the employee feels apprehensive or scared for their physical safety in the workplace. And they feel that this other employee, this coworker, might carry out that threat. It's no longer joking, it's more of a serious tone. Even if it's joking, if you feel like there's this reasonable apprehension, this reasonable fear that this other coworker will hurt you, that's something that needs to be reported. Interactions where a coworker is threatening you can vary, but it often may start out as joking or teasing, but it rises to a level where it's no longer funny and it feels like an actual threat. Threats do not have to be physical. Verbal statements can qualify as a threat in the workplace as well. So if you feel like you're a victim of a credible threat of violence, you should report it. Any threat or a comment that can be perceived as a threat is serious. So it could be as serious as I'm going to kill you, or I'm going to slash your tires, or I know where you live. Those are blatant, serious threats that could make you fearful for your safety. But if it's physical touching or restricting your freedom of movement to where you can't get out of a certain area, that could be perceived as a threat too. When an employee has been threatened by a coworker, that employee often feels scared and intimidated and unsure of what to do next. Should they report it? Should they ignore it? Should they say something? There's a lot of confusion and fear that surround that feeling of being threatened in the workplace. Employees may hesitate to report a coworker because they're fearful of retaliation. They're scared either that the coworker will get mad and carry out the threat or that the employer will fire them because they reported the threat. Unfortunately, no employer is immune from workplace violence. And we've seen the worst of the worst, which could be an active shooter coming into the workplace and carrying out violence. And we've seen minimal of the actual threats that happen between coworkers. This is something that every employer should recognize and understand. It could happen to anybody. It is illegal to threaten someone at work. You are entitled to a safe and healthful work environment. And so if an employee threatens you with an actual credible threat of violence at work, that could be actionable. Workplace violence does not always entail physical harm. It could start earlier and it could be psychological. So there's a lot of different ways to harm another individual other than just actually physically hurting them. Early warning signs where a situation could escalate are the joking in the workplace, the banter, the hazing, the harassment back and forth, maybe bullying, mobbing. Those are early warning signs that it could escalate to really causing a threat in the workplace. If a coworker is intimidating others, that's a red flag. If they're scaring others, if others don't want to be around that employee because they're erratic, unstable, violent, those are all red flags. Tone, body language, and repeated comments play a role in demonstrating that there's this pattern of intimidation or hostility or threats or credible threats of violence. All of that plays into it because you're going to see the tone of the aggressor, the pattern of his repeated conduct, or the nature of his jokes becoming a little bit more serious. I think some people wait to report workplace threats because they may be uncertain if that person's serious or are they joking. So they may wait, they may be scared for their own safety, or they might be fearful that they'll be retaliated against if they do report the threat. So some people wait a while and don't report it right away. Some people might be told that their complaint won't be taken seriously, that HR never investigates, that the employer is not going to do anything anyways. Or, oh, the employee was just joking. Don't worry about it. You're fine. So downplaying or preventing an employer to speak up, those are the types of things that we see that will inhibit an employee coming forward and actually reporting workplace violence. If an employee has been threatened by a coworker, they should report it. If they reasonably believe that they could be a victim of workplace violence, they need to report it. Take action, do something, speak up, protect yourself. The employee should document what transpired, what took place. Write it down, time, date, place, all the details of the incident. Make sure you provide as much information as possible so that the credible threat of violence or threat is appropriately investigated. An employee should report workplace violence internally. They also have the opportunity, if it's serious, to report it externally, but they should report it to their manager, supervisor, HR, the owner, whoever they feel it needs to be escalated to. But it needs to be documented and reported and then investigated if it does happen. If someone feels like they are a victim of assault, battery, a crime, they need to call 911, report it to law enforcement because that's your right. If an employee reports a credible threat of violence in the workplace, an employer, their response should be an investigation, a true investigation into the allegations and taking remedial action. What are you going to do to change the conduct? What are you going to do to prevent the conduct? There has to be action by the employer to ensure that the employees are safe. An employer can be liable for failing to take remedial action when there's a credible threat of violence in the workplace. So if an employer fails to act and take action to prevent this workplace violence, there could be a liability issue. If you truly feel like you're a victim of violence or a threat at work, I think it's important to speak up because your safety is more important than the job. If you feel like you're going to be hurt or harmed by someone else at work, speak up, tell your story, make a complaint, and protect yourself in any way that you possibly can.